Valley Credit Union, with 7 locations in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley, supports the creation of healthy, strong communities. Employees are not only committed to helping members achieve financial success, they understand that successful communities benefit everyone. Guided by their credit union and cooperative principles, staff invest their time, skills, and resources to local businesses, organizations, and initiatives. The credit union has made several multi-year commitments to support projects throughout the Annapolis Valley. The Flower Cart Group's Building Opportunities campaign received a $250,000 donation for its new building project. The funds will be allocated over 5 years, with $100,000 awarded in 2020. The Flower Cart Group provides vocational services to adults with intellectual disabilities, providing meaningful work, training, and employment opportunities. The new facility will allow the group to accommodate 15% more members. The credit union is a strong supporter of the Kingston Greenwood Mental Health Association and the critical work the organization does to address the need for improved mental health. On Bell's Let's Talk Day, 95% of the credit union's employees participated in the One Team for Mental Health Walk. In 2020, Valley Credit Union was awarded Concentra Financial's Empowering Your Community Grant in support of the Mental Health Association. This brought the total funds raised to more than $41,000 and provided more than 400 people in the community with access to mental health first aid training. Ensuring children have access to a healthy breakfast is important to the employees at Valley Credit Union. In 2020, more than $5,300 was donated to the Annapolis Valley Regional Center for Education's breakfast program. The funds are divided between elementary schools in the area. To boost their contributions, the credit union asks qualifying loan holders who wish to participate in their annual Skip a Pay program for a small fee, which they donate back to the breakfast program. When Credit Union Center needed a new Zamboni, Valley Credit Union stepped up with a $75,000 donation. Partnering since 2013, the two organizations share the values of supporting communities, family, youth, and sports. Not only do employees give back by participating in and organizing fundraisers for the benefit of numerous local organizations and events, they also donate their time. Despite the challenges resulting from the global pandemic, in 2020, employees volunteered more than 400 hours of their time, and the credit union's total community contributions exceeded $270,000. As a truly local financial institution, Valley Credit Union values its strong connection to the communities it serves. The credit union's board, management, and employees are proud of the work they do to enrich the lives of their members and the communities in which they live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and welcome to Valley Credit Union's annual general meeting. My name is Andrea Peach, and I will be your moderator. I'm going to be behind the scenes, pulling the levers, so to speak, ensuring the meeting runs smoothly. As I'm sure you've guessed, it was necessary for us to hold the AGM virtually again this year due to the pandemic. Since using Zoom is new for us, I want to let you know a few things. Audio and video are turned off for all attendees. You will remain this way throughout the meeting. Therefore, we ask that all communication be done through the Q&A window, which you can find at the bottom of your screen, as shown here. The meeting is being recorded. So if you have any technical difficulties, or if you know anyone who was unable to join us today, the recording will be shared on our website and relevant social media channels later on, probably tomorrow, actually. We have a handful of speakers providing reports tonight. If you have any related questions, please type them into the Q&A window. They will respond when they finish their report. If you have a question not related to the report, please wait until the end of the meeting. Time will be provided to address all general questions at the end of the meeting. Today's meeting will reference our annual report, our consolidated financial statements, and proposed bylaw changes. I sent these documents to you by email earlier today, just in case you wanted to follow along. You may also find them on our website. All you have to do is go to valleycreditunion.com and click on the AGM banner to take you to the relevant page. During the meeting, members will be asked to pass a few standard motions, such as to approve the agenda or a report. We will be using the unanimous consent method for voting on these standard motions. This means that when a motion is requested, the chair will ask for a mover and a seconder. If you wish to move or second a motion, please type "I move" into the Q&A window as shown here. The first member will be the mover and the second will be the seconder. Only members should respond here. Once moved and seconded, the chair will then only ask if there are any objections to the motion. If no objections are raised, the motion will be passed. If you are opposed to a motion, please type "I am opposed" into the Q&A window. If opposition is raised, we are required to ask members to vote on the motion. If this is necessary, when directed by the chair, all those in favor of the motion will be asked to indicate so using the raise hand function, which you can find at the bottom of your screen next to the Q&A window, as shown here. Please click on raise hand only once and leave it in place. We will lower your hand once we have counted your votes. Then, when directed by the chair, all those opposed to the motion will be asked to indicate by using the raise hand function as well. Again, please leave this in place and we will count the votes and then lower your hands. Let's practice that now. Does everybody want to take a try at clicking the raise hand button, please? All right, so for the most part, I think everybody understands. So that's good. We can stop the test now. Actually, see, I'm noticing the numbers starting to drop. I'd like you guys to leave those in place. Don't unclick it because I'm going to unclick that for you. That's kind of what I wanted to make sure that once you hit that raised hand, you leave it raised. And I'm going to say, okay, that's it for votes. We're going to count now. And now I'm going to lower all the hands. There, okay. And then we would start the new vote after, but we're good. So that there doesn't need to be any raised hands right now. And I need to. There. Perfect. Okay, I keep getting one attendee. I'm gonna lower all hands. So right now there should be no hands raised. So we're good right now. Perfect, thank you. One exception to the use of the unanimous consent approach will be for voting on the proposed amendments to the bylaws. Bylaws require a 2/3 majority to pass. Therefore, all these motions are moved and seconded, and when directed by the chair, voting will be conducted using the raise hand method that we just described. If any of you are still unsure of what you need to do when, don't worry, the speakers will provide direction when necessary. I will now pass the meeting over to the chair of the board. Actually, I apologize. I think I have something here. I wanted to let everybody know, just because I will be turning everybody's camera on and off. Only one camera will be on at any given time. So when I finish speaking, for instance, right now, I will unmute myself. And I'm going to turn on the first speaker's audio and video. And when they're done, I'll have to turn theirs off and then turn the next person's on. So there will be a little bit of a delay in between each speaker, but it shouldn't take long. I just wanted to let you know to expect it. And just one moment, I am now going to pass the meeting over to the chair of the board of directors for Valley Credit Union, Mr. Martin Gillis.
No video. Can you see me? Good evening. Welcome to the annual meeting for Valley Credit Union. Okay, there, now I can see me. Had a bit of a glitch there. First, I'd like to call the meeting to order and circulated in a package earlier to all the registered attendees where the information you need, all the reports and minutes of the previous meeting and the agenda. So right now, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Okay, moved by Christy Bishop. Seconded by Doug Olford. Anyone opposed to the motion? I see no one opposed. The motion is carried. At this time, I'd like to thank the Board of Directors for last year. And your Board of Directors consisted of myself, Martin Gillis as chair, Andrea Martin as vice chair, Doug Olford as secretary, Rick Graham as member of the executive at large, Brian Sterney, Carol Tobin, Wayne Fowler, Kathleen Hutchison, Reginald Rose, and Ken McDonald. I thank the directors for their service last year, and believe me, there was a lot of work in the past year for the directors. Also, I've been given the report on registration. We have 63 attendees and 8 guests. Therefore, I declare we have a quorum. Also circulated in the package were the minutes from last year's meeting. Could I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Doug Olford, seconded by Matthew Dubois. Any objections to the motion? Motion carried. Does anyone have any business arising from the minutes? I'll just give a moment here for anybody to type in any questions they have. Okay, I'm not seeing any business arising from the minutes. So we'll move right into the reports. And the way this will work is each one, the reports will be given by the chairs of each committee. And there'll be one motion at the end of the reports to accept all the reports. After each report is given, there'll be an opportunity for questions of the presenter of the report before it's passed on. And again, questions could be typed into the question and answer. So we begin with the chair's report. It was included in the package. I'm not going to read it to you word for word. However, there's a couple of things that I would like to point out. Mainly, I would really like to thank management and staff for their service over the past year. As for everybody else, this has been a very stressful time for staff to try and operate under the COVID restrictions and safety concerns for staff and members. It required a lot of changes on the fly, adapting the way we do business to try and supply the best business we could to the members and still remain profitable. So I would like to thank staff for that and management. Also, I'd like to mention before the meeting, there was a short video presented as far as our activities in the community. This year, I'm very proud to say, Valley Credit Union received the Cody Award. And the Cody Award is presented to a credit union in Atlantic Canada for their contributions to community. And that video gives you an idea of what we're doing in your community and the difference we're making to the people that live here. So other than that, like I say, my report has been there. Are there any questions on the report? Okay, if there are no questions, then I will now pass it on to Len Els, our President and CEO, to give the President and CEO's report.
I'd like to wish everybody a good evening and thank you for choosing to attend Valley Credit Union's AGM tonight. I suspect most of you know me, as Marty introduced me. My name's Len Els, CEO of Valley Credit Union. My written report can be found in our annual report on pages 6 through 8, which can be found on the Valley Credit Union's website or was directed to participants earlier. I'll be covering many of the topics items mentioned in my report, but will not be following it directly. I often start my annual report with a comment on change or challenge, followed by what we've done to adapt. This year is no different, but I think most would agree that 2020 was the most challenging year many of us had in many years, perhaps in our lifetime. The year started in a very normal fashion for Valley Credit Union, perhaps a little quieter than usual, calm before the storm. But by March, COVID hit like a hurricane, with governments, businesses, individuals alike having all to sort out what it was like to function in a new norm. We had the great fortune of having reviewed our business continuity plan and pandemic plan very early in 2020, and were well prepared in determining and communicating the steps that we needed to take. The biggest task was refining messages so that they were clear, as well as keeping calmness within the business with so much information being disseminated so quickly. Certainly, we were helped along considerably by the support of Atlantic Central and the province of Nova Scotia and the resources they provided. Excuse me. Our number one priority was keeping staff safe and in turn contributing to keeping our members safe. We quickly introduced protocols for self-distancing, disinfecting, cleaning. We quickly installed plexiglass barriers in branches and took a very proactive approach in communicating with our members. Many of our staff were not comfortable coming to work, much like many other workplaces, and many of our members chose to deal with us in a different fashion, digitally, online, by phone, rather than in person. The combination of these two things led us to reduce branch hours, as well as to temporarily close several of our branches for a period of time, ensuring that if we did experience an outbreak in a branch, that we would have the resources to continue to meet the needs of our members. I'd like to thank our employees once again for working with us to allow us to remain open. At times since the pandemic hit, we have been short in excess of 25% of staff. Being short 16 to 17 staff over a staff of 60 or so makes it very challenging to keep branches open and to keep a back office functioning. So we sincerely appreciate the efforts put forward by all. Some of the largest impact in the Valley was with small businesses. We took a proactive approach in communicating with them and doing our part to see them to get through the worst of the pandemic. Our commercial team likely had the largest challenge of all. They had to effectively manage member communications and expectations to meet the needs of commercial members, while at the same time trying to balance both federal and provincial lending programs that were constantly changing and with many delays. They bore the brunt of frustrations from members and non-members for application delays, funding delays, changes to programs. The team's commitment to our business was impressive and very much appreciated. In spite of all the challenges, the commercial team led Valley's loan growth again this year, accomplishing this during COVID, adapting in many ways, much of it by adopting and using technology. 2020 saw us adopt a large amount of technology to accommodate the needs of staff and members to meet virtually. We adapted our Coconut, which is our online appointment booking system, to accommodate virtual meetings. This meant adopting Microsoft Teams for hosting video meetings. Additional products and services adopted during the year included our AI chatbot, Val, mobile wallet with Apple, Samsung, and Google Pay, international payments, DocuSign, as well as others, but also our largest project being ASAP, an online lending platform or lending and account opening platform that lets our members open accounts or apply for loans online from home. BCU and our staff did many things to assist our members during the peak of the pandemic, from reaching out to more than 5,000 personal members to ensure that they were doing okay and to let them know that we were here to support them. We supported Valley businesses by purchasing goods and services to provide our employees as bi-weekly gifts during the height of the pandemic. And our staff also participated in the Loyal to Local Challenge along with other Atlantic credit unions. Atlantic Central and credit unions partnered on this initiative to provide all employees with a $50 gift card to spend at local businesses and to promote those local businesses on social media. We were fortunate this year to win Concentra's top prize of $25,000 in the Empowering Communities competition. The beneficiary was Kingston Greenwood Mental Health Association, a cause that is very close to the hearts of many of our staff, our members, and our board. Our staff also participated in a number of community-based initiatives, from beach cleanups to coldest night of the year to supporting breakfast programs. We proudly did our part. Our support for community was emphasized again with the decision to provide $250,000 of funding to long-term partner, the Flower Cart, in support of their new facility, which will be constructed in New Minas. In closing, I recognize that 2020 was a rough year for all of us in so many ways. I would like to thank our dedicated employees for their tireless efforts. I'd like to thank our members for their support and patience as we navigated through uncharted waters. And I'd like to thank the members of the board for their continued support, their guidance, and their commitment to the success of Valley Credit Union. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this point. You can insert them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And no rush if questions, if you don't have the opportunity to type in a question before the end we'll answer all questions before the end of the evening. So the first question is, can I speak to the abrupt departure of Cindy Viner? For those who don't know, Cindy was our IROC wealth advisor who departed in August of 2020. I don't know if people can see the individual's name, but for confidentiality purposes, I won't mention it. It says they were new members, decided to join with her as their financial advisor. Obviously, things went off, and in March last year, she disappeared. They moved a large dollar of savings elsewhere as a result, and would like to hear more about the unified CU financial advisors. Not to speak to Cindy's circumstances. Cindy reported to me, I'm very aware of her departure, etc. What happened, if you roll the clock back a year and a half to the fall of 2019, is 16 credit unions, including ourselves in Atlantic Canada, many of which had a single advisor and a wealth offer, made the decision to get together and combine wealth offers and to create a firm throughout Atlantic Canada of 27 employees, 14 of which are advisors. We did so for very good reasons, is to provide advisors additional learning and development support, to be able to provide vacation coverage for them or sickness, illness coverage, to expand the breadth of the offer that we had in wealth. Cindy was one of two advisors across the business that decided that the new offer was not for her, and left. We went through a vacancy in the Valley from August until a very, very short while ago, and those that deal with our wealth offer would have gotten a correspondence in all likelihood, or very soon, that Brandon Crokin has been appointed to replace Cindy. I will advise people that the wealth offer, the CEO, was replaced in January after 1 year of service, just due to the direction that I guess the board was really not enamored with the progress that was made to date. And a new CEO for the wealth offer will start on May 3rd. So that business has gone through a very tough year during COVID to initiate a new business, bringing the front and back offices staffing together from 16 credit unions. Everything is very well in place together now. The offer is growing substantially. As I say, a new advisor in place here. The other advisor that departed was in Truro, and that advisor was replaced August or September of last year. If there are any other or further items you'd like me to address on that, feel free to type it in the box. Are there any other questions? You're welcome. If there are any, as I said, put them in the Q&A box and I'll answer them before the close of the meeting tonight. But at this time, I'd like to pass the torch over to Rick Graham, who will provide the Credit Committee report.
Thanks, Len, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this year's annual general meeting. The Credit Committee report is contained on page 9 of the 2020 annual report. The following are a few high-level observations I would like to offer. First of all, the full economic impact of the pandemic remains unknown. However, the impact thus far has not been nearly as dramatic as initially thought, evidenced by exceptional loan growth, especially in the commercial sector. No doubt a consequence of the stability of our local economy brought on by excellent pandemic management by Nova Scotia's public health professionals and citizens' adherence to their directives. And secondly, our core industries here in the Valley, being our agri-based, bring on a certain amount of stability. It is also appropriate to recognize that members continue to demonstrate trust and confidence in our credit union, and in particular, our team of professionals to attend to their financial needs. Loan losses and delinquency remain very low. While government programs have gone far to shield Canadians against untoward economic developments due to COVID-19, we believe that our credit portfolio is ideally positioned to withstand any future COVID-related bumps in the road. In all, a very good year from a credit perspective, thanks to the ongoing trust of our members and our outstanding staff. I'll now pause for questions that you might have. If you do wish to, as Len has mentioned, please use the Q&A button on your screen. Not seeing any, I'll turn it over to Kathleen Hutchinson, who will speak to the report on corporate, social, and environmental responsibility.
Thank you, Rick. I am Kathleen Hutchinson. I'm standing in for the chair of our CSER committee, Wayne Fowler, this evening, as he couldn't be here. I'll make this short and sweet for you. Further to Mr. Fowler's report on page 10 of your annual general meeting report, the committee's mandate is to promote the well-being of our members in the communities that we serve. This past year, our focus was on the promotion of education, sports, and health and wellness. We were privileged this past year to have been able to offer support to several organizations, including Chrysalis House, the Canning Library, V-Star Hockey, and Annapolis Valley Ground Search and Rescue, to just name a few for you. Subject to any questions, that's all for the CSER report for this year. Seeing no questions, I will pass off to Andrea Martin, who is the chair of our audit committee, for her report.
Okay, so I hope everyone can hear me. The audit committee met 4 times virtually last year. It was comprised of Doug Olford, Carol Tobin, myself, with assistance from Denise Marine for part of the year and Ian Wilkie for the rest of it. Like I said in the report, we follow what's set out in the Credit Union Act, and we go through any audit reports that come in, whether they're internal or external. We met with our current auditors, PwC, in March, and I'm very pleased to report that we had a nice clean audit, and we're in a good position to go forward. I'm going to turn it over right now to Ian Wilkie, and he'll go over the financials. And if you have any questions for him, and then it'll come back to me. So here's Ian.
Thank you, Andrea, and good evening, everybody. My name is Ian Wilkie, and I'm going to provide a brief overview of the financial statements for Valley Credit Union. The consolidated audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2020 were included with the meeting materials, but I'll just highlight some of the main areas. Our total assets in the year increased by $33 million to $232 million, which included an increase in our lending portfolio of $14.5 million. Overall, our deposits increased by $32 million, with $26 million of that increase in checking accounts in the year. And that's been a fairly common occurrence throughout credit unions across the province. Our total deposits were $216 million at December 31st, 2020. On the income side, the interest on our lending portfolio was $7.2 million, which represented a slight decline over the prior year as renewals were impacted by falling rates throughout the year. On the flip side of that, the interest expense on deposits fell by $350,000 as falling rates were again caused an impact on our deposit rates. Overall, our operating expenses were in line with 2019 at $6.8 million. Net income for the year was $1.5 million, which included a gain of $400,000 on the transfer of our wealth portfolio into the newly formed entity CUFM, which Len mentioned earlier in his presentation. CUFM contains the wealth assets of 16 credit unions in Nova Scotia, and Valley Credit Union owns 11% of the new entity, which represents our share of the assets transferred in. So that's it for my brief overview of the financial statements. If there's any questions, then please include in the Q&A section, and I'd be happy to answer them. I don't see any questions, but if any questions do come up, please feel free to ask them anytime, and I'll answer them before the end of the meeting. And I'd now like to send it back to Andrea Martin, Chair of the Audit Committee, for the approval of the financial statements and appointment of the auditors for the upcoming year.
Okay, so as Ian alluded to, I'm looking for, first I'll ask, does anyone have any questions on the audit report? I know all 75 participants here have read it in depth. Laura Lewis, who is part of our audit team, is in attendance, but we won't ask her any questions. Unless someone has a question, they can put it in the question and answer. And if there's no questions, what I'm looking for, no, that's not a question about the audit committee. Okay, so we're looking for an acceptance of the auditor's report as included in the consolidated financial statement package. So do we have a mover on that? Okay, Tracy Way. I'm looking for a seconder. Okay, Reg Rose. So if anyone is opposed, please indicate now in the question and answer box. I'm going to say everyone accepts it. Okay, so my next job here tonight is we are recommending the appointment of PwC as our auditors for 2021. And so we are looking for a mover for that one as well. Christy Bishop, thank you. And a seconder, Doug, awesome. And if anyone is opposed to having PwC, now's your time to say so in the question and answer thing. Just a second, I have to scroll down. I see no objections, so I will say that that has passed. I am going to turn this over now to Kathleen Hutchinson, who is the chair of the nomination committee. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. You won't see a written report from me in the 2020 annual report, so I'll try to give you a bit more detail with respect to the nominations committee work this year. I sit as the chair along with 2 other members of the board. The committee's function is to ascertain if incumbent directors intend to seek re-election, to interview, if necessary, any prospective candidates, and to preside over the election at the annual general meeting, and ensure election procedures are followed. This year, there were 4 directors' terms who were expiring. 3 have re-offered, and we have also received 3 new nominations. This year, we also received a resignation from one of our current directors. As per our bylaws, the board can consist of up to 12 members. Our re-offering directors this year are Wayne Fowler, Rick Graham, and Carol Tobin. Our new nominees this year are Christopher Kalaki, Gerald Walsh, and James Bell. Combining our re-offering directors and our new nominees with the current directors, this will bring the board to 11 members. As such, there is no need for a vote, and our nominees are accepted by acclamation. We would like to thank Doug Oldford and Ken McDonald for their service to the board. We appreciate your contribution over the duration of your terms and hope that someday we can thank you in person. Subject to any questions, that will conclude my report from the nomination committee. Seeing none, I will turn it back over to our chair, Martin Gillis.
Thank you very much. Those are the committee reports. Are there any questions that haven't been answered regarding the committee reports? I see one question there that I'm going to leave until the end of the meeting for the general questions to answer that. So any questions, any of the committee reports? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the committee reports. It's moved by Richard Clark, seconded by Heather Montgomery. Any objections to the committee reports? And no objections, I'll declare the reports approved. In your packets, the information was sent out on proposed bylaw changes. The reasons for the bylaw changes are to allow for electronic meetings such as this. To have this one electronically, we had to get permission from the superintendent because we had no allowance for it in our bylaws. So there's three bylaws that are being changed, and I'll go through each one. Then I'll ask for any comments that anybody may have. The first one is D101 regarding the place of the meeting. The current bylaw reads, the meetings of members of Valley Credit Union shall be held at such place within the province of Nova Scotia as may be determined by the board from time to time. Our proposed change will be the meetings of the members of Valley Credit Union shall be held in such place within the province of Nova Scotia or by virtual means, or both, as may be determined from time to time. So that's all that is to say. We can hold it virtually, or we can hold a combination of virtual and in person. The second change is to our annual meeting, section D4.01. That bylaw reads, the Board of Valley Credit Union shall call an annual general meeting of the members to be held 120 days after the end of the fiscal year of Valley Credit Union. To consider the annual report of the board, the financial statements of the Valley Credit Union, and the auditor's report, to appoint the auditor, to elect directors, and deal with other such matters as may properly come before the meeting. The proposed bylaw is exactly the same with the following paragraph added. In the event of an unusual or extreme circumstance, i.e. public health, war, insurrection, etc., the board may, with written consent of the superintendent of credit unions, defer the annual meeting beyond the 120 days, subject to any terms that the superintendent may impose. And that would give us the opportunity to move the annual meeting if we needed to. For example, the COVID situation, which we had never anticipated. The third change is a method of voting. Current bylaw says, bylaw D11.01, voting at a meeting of members shall be by show of hands or by a voice response, except where a ballot is demanded by a member to vote at the meeting. Valley Credit Union will also provide a system for in-branch voting at the branch of the account holder and add the results from the annual meeting vote. The proposed change is voting at a meeting of members shall be by show of hands or by voice response, except where the ballot is demanded by a member to vote at the meeting. Valley Credit Union will also provide a system for in-branch voting, for voting at the branch of the account holder and add such results to the annual general meeting. Voting may also be done by electronic means where attendance at the annual meeting in whole or in part is virtual. And that is basically to allow us to hold virtual meetings such as this without having to get special permission. Are there any questions on the bylaw changes? Okay, I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder to the bylaw changes, please. Okay, I have Matthew Dubois, move, Rebecca Lightfoot, second. Now to vote on this, as mentioned earlier, we vote by raising our hands. And once you raise your hand, please leave it raised so we have an opportunity to count them. And then we will take them down and ask if there's anyone against. So all those in favor of the bylaw changes, please raise your hand. And if Andrea can let me know when that count is completed. Just give Andrea a chance to do the count. Okay, we'll take those down. Is anyone against the bylaw changes? Okay, again, if anyone is against the bylaw changes, please raise your hand. Pardon? Okay. The vote has passed. The bylaw changes 43-1. So at this time, we do have a question regarding the expectations as far as possible immigration into the area. I'll read the question. says, as a newcomer to Nova Scotia in the Valley, largely here because of a belief and a different quality of life, I'm curious if there are any anticipation of increased movement from outside the province here and any expected benefits or changes. I would just chastise, but it's okay. Any changes and how this will benefit the credit union. Len, I'm going to ask you if you have any comments on that, please.
Thanks, Marty, and welcome to the Valley, Robert. I think if you take a look at the economy in the Valley and in Nova Scotia over the last number of years, it's been fairly steady. So I know you're asking if there's any increased anticipation of increased movement. I think we've seen significant influx of people so far, which has really benefited the Valley communities. If you roll the clock back a couple or a few years and you drove down the main street in Middleton, or Middleton as well, Bridgetown, in a very small town, you would have seen just many for sale signs. As I'm sure you're aware, and as most are on the phone, that there are very few for sale signs in the Valley currently, and real estate prices have gone up quite dramatically. I would suggest probably in the 20 to 40% range over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. Undoubtedly, small businesses in the communities that we serve, and I take a look primarily as you move west through the Valley, is small business owners will undoubtedly benefit, and I'm sure already have. Rick Graham spoke to the delinquency or lack thereof in our portfolio and our small businesses over the course of the last 12 months with COVID. Overall have done very well. We're seeing a strength in the portfolio, reduced dependence on operating facilities. So we certainly hope it continues. It's favorable for all of us, and hopefully brings back services that have been removed from the Valley over the past years. Are there any other questions before I pass it back to Marty? If not, I'll pass it back to Marty, and I think in all likelihood move for adjournment if there are no further questions, but we'll wait a few minutes as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Len. One last call for any other questions anybody may have. Okay, if there are none, just once more, I'd like to thank the board, the management, and the staff for the effort they put in, and the members for the dedication and the that they've shown to the credit union. All makes us stronger. So if I could have a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Matthew Dubois. Thank you very much, people, and have a good evening, and stay safe, please.